Hello, good evening. Welcome to tonight's session of the leadership conversation. Um, those who are arriving, welcome. If you are here, you know the tradition. Let me know that you are here. We have been talking about functional leadership, or what we call the action-centered leadership. We concluded our discussion on that last week, and tonight we are looking at a very interesting topic. It's also part of leading. Tonight, we will be looking at how you can transition from being a boss to a leader. How do you transition from being a boss to being a leader? And it's easy to be appointed a boss, and almost anybody can be appointed a boss. Bosses are there to make sure that a system runs. They are appointed, they are given a position, they are given authority, they are given resources, they are given people, and they manage the people, they manage the resources, they use the authority to give orders, and they expect their orders to be taken, and they use the system to run the system. They run the system to deliver the expected results. They have very little consideration for human beings and for connecting with the people, at a deeper level. And so those are bosses. And so we have several bosses. But it takes a leader to get the commitment of people and to get the loyalty of people to the organization. And so we have many, many, many bosses, but we have very few leaders. So tonight, if you are here, I would like you to get yourself ready. Those who are inviting friends, yes, go ahead, invite friends, organize watch parties and stuff. Welcome. Yeah, so it's going to be a very interesting session tonight. So feel free to invite friends. Feel free. Okay. So here we go. So we're talking about how do you move from being a boss to being a leader. From being a boss and to being a leader. Now, we should remember that leadership is about influence. It's about influencing people. It's about not always resorting to your formal authority, but to use your ability to influence people, to get them to change their mind and come in your direction. That's leadership. So whether or not you have people who report to you, you can still lead. And the fact that you have been appointed as a supervisor does not make you automatically a leader. Being appointed as a supervisor only makes you a boss. But leadership is a different thing altogether, different set of skills altogether. And so, how do you transition from being a boss? You have a system in place, you have a supporting technology, you have people, you have resources, you have authority, you use the authority, you give orders, you expect compliance. All the time you resort to your formal authority and you use power and sometimes intimidation to get people to do the work. Sometimes people do it not because they respect you, but because they fear you and they fear your formal authority. So the boss consistently resorts to their formal authority, and they do. So the day you lose your formal authority, the day you lose your position as a supervisor or something happens, and that power that you have clung onto is taken away from you, that day you lose the respect of the people, because the only source of respect you have is your formal authority. And if you are a leader like that, if you are a supervisor like that, you are a manager like that, I call you a poor manager, because all that you have is your formal authority. And your formal authority only gives you power over the people within the formal sector, within the formal setting. And by that I mean whilst they are in your premises, and only when they are within the official working hours. And so if your power is over them is only constrained, limited to the formal setting, then you are the poorest manager that is to be pitied, because it means that the people, if they have their choice, you are not the one that they want to lead them. You'll be someone else they want to lead them. You'll be someone else. If they're given the chance, they wouldn't want to work with you. If managerial positions are by election, where we want to say, okay, let's elect our new CEO, let's elect our new head of department, let's elect our new director of human resource, let's elect our new director of finance, etc., etc. You'll be amazing, the result will be amazing, because you realize that many of the people who are acting, who are in positions as supervisors, may not be those that the people want to work with. Of course, there are a few workers who may be lazy, and so they may not want anybody who would be hard on them in doing the work. But having said that, majority of the people will choose someone else, not because the person will not make them work, but because the person respects them, because the person treats them as a human being, because the person connects with them at a much deeper level, because the person helps them to be inspired, to be motivated. So if you get appointed, or when you get appointed, like I always say, the manager's appointment is always at two different levels. It occurs at two different levels. So let's assume that I've been appointed as the head of a unit, a head of a division, head of a department, a CEO of an organization, a leader of a church, a men's ministry leader of a church, or something. Okay. Now, those who work with me and work under me, many of them would have wished to have someone else to be their leader. So they come with the mindset that you are not their leader. You have to justify your position as their leader. So they will do everything to prove themselves right that you are wrong. They will do everything to prove themselves right that you are not the correct leader. They will do everything to pull your leg, to make sure that you fail if they don't want you, if they don't like you. Now, it's up to you now to allow yourself to fail or to prove the people wrong. It's up to you. And so your first appointment is by the appointment of your CEO as head of department or head of unit or head of division. Or probably the board chairman or the board appoints you as a CEO. That's your first level of appointment. And that one makes you a boss, not a leader. But you see, the people will have to accept you. Each and every one of them will have to ratify you in their heart as their leader. So until the day that you get one of them, each of them to ratify you in their heart, you are not their leader. So the second appointment comes on the day when they ratify you in their heart as their leader. How does that happen? It happens when you begin to now connect with them at the personal level. When you begin to respect them. When you begin to treat them as human beings who have a brain, who can think, who have something to offer. When you begin to trust them. When you begin to assign them to roles that you know that they are capable of performing, when you begin to respect their views, when you begin to look for their input, when you begin to involve them in decision making, when you begin to show interest in their personal matters, when you care not just about what they do at work, their life at work, but you care about their life even outside of work, when you begin to show concern for their family, when you begin to show concern for their personal well-being, when you want to make them your friend, when you want to see how do I connect with them better, when you want to know them individually, personally, know them as individuals, know their differences, know who is who wants to be handled how, know their personality types, and connect with them at their level. So it's not far-fetched. It's not far-fetched. Those of us who've done a little bit of management theory would have come across theories like theory X and theory Y and theory Z. Okay. Now, these are not big things. They are very simple concepts, and I'll try to explain. Now, the boss operates fundamentally with theory X. Now, what does theory X say? Now, these theories are basically about the assumptions that managers hold on people, on workers, the assumptions that managers hold about workers. And of course, this theory can also be applied to employees. Now, but what are these assumptions? Theory X manager believes or holds the assumption that the average worker is lazy and wants to do the minimum amount of work, and that when they have the chance, they want to dodge work. Okay, and that they cannot be trusted too much, and that they cannot be trusted to be autonomous, to be fairly autonomous. So the employee will have to be managed with an iron hand. The employee will have to be well managed like a machine, okay, like any other resource, not as a human resource. Now, so it means that you have to control them. You have to punish them when they go wrong. You have to use rewards and punishment to regulate, to modify their behavior. So you operate with them on the basis of transaction. The Lord says this, and this is what we are doing. It's a very formal setting. So no personal level commitment to the people. That's theory X. And of course, there are employees who behave based on these assumptions. Of course, there are some employees who are lazy, who don't want to work, and so on and so forth, who want to dodge work, who want to do very minimum amount of work. But all of these things, employee behaviors, are normally the outcome of management practice. So the type of management practice I exercise will determine whether my employees are going to hold back work or they are going to give me their full employment, their full commitment. So that's theory X. Now, theory Y is quite the opposite. It holds the assumption that the employees are not necessarily lazy, and that they can be hardworking, and that they can be very much committed, and that work is as natural as life. And so the manager only has to know how to handle the employees, and that the employees can give them the highest amount of commitment, and that the employee has got a lot of creative ideas, creative abilities, and that the manager, it is up to the manager to draw out this creativity of the employees. See, so that's the theory X, these are the theory X and theory Y, which are assumptions that managers hold about employees. Now, bosses normally hold more of theory X assumptions on their employees. It doesn't mean that they don't hold anything on theory Y. It doesn't mean they don't trust anybody. It doesn't mean they don't respect anybody. What it does mean is that they distrust people more than they trust people. They treat people more as machines than they treat them as human beings. They give more commands and instructions, and they use more force rather than inspiring people to work. So they are very, very, very mechanistic, very mechanistic. That's the fundamental. These are the fundamental differences. So if you are a Theory X manager, if you are basically a Theory X manager, you remain a boss. Bosses are more Theory X managers. When you become a leader, you are more of Theory Y. Does it mean that you don't apply any Theory X? No, it doesn't mean that. It does mean that you still keep your eye on the job. You still know that there are some people, if you don't use a little bit of force, they're not going to work. You still know that there are some people, they need to be guided all of the time. You still know that there are some people who may not be trusted very well. But you create the opportunity, you create the environment where people can be trusted. You create the environment that can make people trusted. You create the environment that gives more in terms of autonomy to employees. You create the environment that allows employees to think and take initiative. You create the environment that allows employees to be motivated, to be inspired to do the work instead of using fear and intimidation. You create the environment that allows employees to come and share their frustrations with you and talk about the problems. If they are peculiar needs, they can easily come to you, believing that they will receive a fair hearing and a fair treatment from you. That's what moves you from being a boss to being a leader. So once you begin to do these things, then each individual will now begin to ratify your appointment in their heart, one by one. And this happens at individual levels on different dates. So the day that you become their leader is the day that they have ratified you in their heart as their leader. They have appended their signature to your appointment. And this signature happens in their heart. They don't do it with their hands. They do it with their heart. Then they connect with you in their heart. They connect with you in their mind. They connect with you in their spirit. From that time on, they see you as their leader. They support you to succeed. They'll cover your back. They'll defend you. They will do the work. They want to see you succeed. They want to see you happy. They will stand up for you. They will defend you. They see you as a friend. They connect with you. See, so it is true. Human beings can be difficult to manage. Yes, they are. But a skillful manager, a skillful leader can create an environment that allows people to work effectively by applying more of Theory Y, effectively combining Theory X and Theory Y, but leaning more on Theory Y management style. That's it. In the traditional management style, employees are, and let's not forget, when management theory, management concept came onto the scene years ago, when industrial revolution occurred, industries were built, and businesses moved from being family-owned businesses and subsistence businesses into commercial businesses. Then they had to get managers to manage. And how was it? How is it that at that time, it was assumed that employees did not know much. They were just like machines. Work wasn't that complicated, very simple processes to go through. And so the wisdom in those days is to get a few engineers and engineers who would sit down with senior management to plan the work and decide how the work is to be done. Then they get managers, they put the system down. Then they get managers to run that system. Yours is just to give command, give orders. Let people obey orders and get work done. We didn't bring you here to think. As an employee, you're not here to think. We've already done the thinking. Come with your strength. Don't tell us what to do. Just do what we tell you to do. And management was that simple in those days because the tasks were not complicated, and so on and so forth. Very simple environment. And it succeeded in those days within that context. But you see, as the workplace evolved, work became more complicated. Work requires more complicated and complex skills, and the employees now are supposed to have these skills. So the wisdom that used to be harvested and placed in systems over which managers were appointed to implement, this wisdom is now diffused in the head of employees. Some of them very junior, some of them very young, some of them younger than your children. But in their head is stored that wisdom, that skill, that knowledge, that expertise that you require to succeed. You ignore them at your own peril, to your own disaster. Now, that is it. So, theory Y managers, who are actually leaders, they recognize that in the heads of these employees, there are skills, expertise, ideas, wisdom, knowledge, etc., that when they know how to make use of, can lead to organizational productivity and organizational success. This is the way it works. So once you do this, then they will now come to ratify you in their heart, appoint you in their heart. They will normally be sitting on the fence, not knowing how you are. But now they'll get off the fence, they'll come on board, they'll support you to succeed. Yeah, support you to succeed. So your employees are not things. They are not machines. They are human beings with brain. And to conclude, I just want to refer you a little bit to a simple motivational theory. Okay, a simple motivational theory. I've always talked about Maslow because I like Maslow's concept of motivation. Maslow thinks that people are motivated, and motivation is at the base or at the bottom, is a foundation, and is fundamental and foundational to people's behavior at work, and that there are many things that motivate people, and that people are motivated at different levels, and different needs give rise to different motivations. In other words, when needs are met, then people are motivated. And he thinks that needs are 5 different levels. The first is the physiological needs, which are just, food, clothing, shelter, etc. Now, the second one is safety and security needs. Okay, it may be job security, it may be health and safety at work, and so on and so forth. Now, the other one is love and affection. That people have to be loved. People have to be treated with respect. And then, of course, and then we have self-esteem. That people have to be treated in such a way that they will feel good about themselves, and the estimation that they place on themselves will be very high. Basically, self-esteem is about the estimation that the self places on themselves. That's self-esteem. So your self-esteem is the estimation of your value that you place on yourself. Now, the fifth one is what he calls self-actualization, meaning that once an individual goes through all the 4 stages, eventually they will be in a position to be able to fulfill what is like their God-given assignment and call at the workplace. They want to see that they are contributing to something that is worthwhile, that is meaningful. And that comes when you give them challenge. That comes when you respect them. That comes when you assign them to what they can do best. That comes when you let them see the meaning of what they are doing. That comes when you allow them to make decisions on some things. You give them a level of autonomy so that they are not treated as machines, and so on and so forth. That comes when you recognize them and you acknowledge their contribution to what is happening at the workplace. So with this simple model, leaders can really do well to be able to strengthen the productive capacity of their of the people that work with them. And then your members can ratify you. They can appoint you in their hearts. That's it. It's that simple. So I would want to pause here, and as a recap, we have looked at the differences between a boss and a leader, how to move from being a boss to becoming a leader. The bosses give commands that the only source of their power is their formal authority. They give orders, they use a system, they use punishment a lot, they use power to intimidate people, and people comply, employees comply with their orders, not because they respect them, but because they fear them, and because they hold the organizational power, or authority, so they respect them. But once they lose their formal authority, they lose the respect of everybody. But the leader is different. It doesn't matter whether you are still their supervisor. They will still respect you. Years after you have left them, they will still respect you. In their heart, they will still respect you. Some go on retirement, and you go on retirement as well. But when a survey is taken and they ask who has been your best manager so far, leader so far, they will mention you. You were their leader 20, 30 years ago. They will still mention you. That's what we are talking about. But so being a leader doesn't mean you should be weak. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep your eye on the work. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't push the people to do the work. The work will have to be done. But the leader, remember, the leader stands on two legs: the work, the task, and the people. So the leader keeps his eye on the task. He keeps his heart on the people. When you are able to get the people's heart, you give them your heart and get their hearts, they will work for you to achieve the task. That's the way it works. Intimidation will not help you. For how long can you intimidate them? For how long can you control them? And employees are smart. They can outsmart you. Seriously, they can outsmart you. So, well, we're going to pause here. God willing, we'll build on that next week and make sure that you come along. And hey, Jane, long time. Yeah, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Anyway, make sure that you come along and come along next week. For those who have been here, thank you. New, thank you for being here. Godwin, Mr. Zasu, long time. Okay, Rudy Daniels, yes, that's good. Thank you for coming. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, the green law, good. Okay. Gamali, good to see you. Julius, good to see you. Great people out there. Yeah, Charles, good to see you. Louis, wow, amazing. Thank you. Walanyo, you are here. Mamle, you are here. Wow, okay, good. Thank you for all the people that have been around. And please do share the link. Do share with your friends who are managers, leaders, pastors, workers in church, HR managers, directors, CEOs, politicians, etc. Please share the link. And these simple things, these simple processes and concepts can help people to improve upon their leadership style. So, God willing, I'll see you on Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Finally, remember, when we learn, we change. When we change, we give up on some practices, habits, and attitudes. So we stop some habits, attitudes, and practices. We start some habits, attitudes, and practices, but we also strengthen some habits, practices, and attitudes. So as you keep coming to the leadership conversation, I appreciate your continual coming back, but more importantly, please do make sure that you change and that you become a better leader, better father, better mother, better brother, better sister, better HR manager, better, leader, whatever respect that you find yourself. So thank you very much. God bless you. Bye for now.